Hey world, and welcome back. I'm back. You might have already seen my wrap up and 2024 goals video. But yeah, I'm back. I'm excited, but I'm also a little bit sad that I didn't get to talk about all the books I read in 2023. So I'm gonna do that now. This is gonna be a long video. Sit back, get comfortable, make yourself a cup of tea or some snacks, and let me tell you about the 80, I think? Yeah, the 80 books I read last year, which actually is a lie, because I'm also gonna make a little separate video about all the manga and comics I read last year, possibly with a little reading vlog, because it's also one of my goals for this year to catch up on all those series. So I'm gonna make that as a separate video. So those are about like 20-ish books that I'm actually not gonna talk about, but still, there's a lot of books to talk about. So yeah, I'm just gonna do that now. I'm not gonna do like a top 10 or something like that. I'm just gonna go through them chronologically and just mention when one of them is like one of my favorites of the year. But there is gonna be a little list of some of my favorites of the year down in the description. So if you want to check that out, those are like the best of the best. But I still had such a great reading year. And yeah, let me tell you all about it. I'm excited. Let's start with the first book I read in 2023, which was The Stranger in the Lifeboat, my Mitch album. I just love Mitch album. I really enjoy his writing. I always love his work. This one was actually a little bit different because it kind of had like a crime mystery aspect to it, which was really interesting. But yeah, once again, it was about faith and about human connection and about the purpose of life. And I just really, really appreciate his books. They always make me cry, so heads up. Again, this one made me cry. He also published a new one at the end of last year, which I'm really looking forward to reading and crying over again. But yeah, Stranger in the Lifeboat, again, just a great Mitch Albom book. And then we already got to the first book that I don't own, because I really got into audiobooks last year. I had a lot of fun listening to books. And the first of those was The Hobbit by Tolkien. I actually read or listened to, I don't know, to the BBC audio production of that, and it was like a whole production with like background noises and different actors and all of that. It was really fun. The reason why I finally read it was because right before that I also finally watched the Lord of the Ring movies for the first time with a friend of mine who really, really loves them, and I had a great time doing it. I really loved her telling me why she loved the movies. I did not enjoy them personally. I also had a great time listening to The Hobbit, but did not enjoy it personally. Like, I'm not gonna read the Lord of the Ring books. I'm not like a Tolkien fan now, but I think it was really a fun experience. I'm glad that I tried that and that I gave that a shot. And yeah, again, I had fun with it, and it was a great audio production. Then I also, all of the rest, I think I mostly read manga in January, so most of that is gonna be in that video. Let me go through the list: manga, comic, manga. Then I also listened to the Voices in the Wind production of Alice in Wonderland, which is my favorite fairy tale. I love it so much, and I basically read it at least once a year. So yeah, this year's reread of Alice in Wonderland was also an audio production, and it was so cute and nice and fun, and I had a great time with it. And then I listened to another audiobook, which was Noch haben wir die Wahl by Luisa Neubauer and Bernd Ulrich. I also read one of Luisa Neubauer's books later in the year, we'll get to it. But yeah, I listened to this one as an audiobook, which was also really interesting, because it's basically kind of like an interview, kind of like a conversation, kind of like a discussion between Luisa Neubauer, who's a German climate activist, and Bernd Ulrich, who's a politician, and they kind of discuss like climate politics, and it's really, really interesting. There were some great talking points that I took away from it, some great like new perspectives, some great like what is possible, what isn't possible, generational discussions, because Bernd Ulrich is older than Luisa Neubauer. They had like some intergenerational talks, and it was like really, really interesting, and I again really enjoyed listening to it as the actual conversation rather than reading the text on the page. Next, I did read a physical book again, but I also don't own it. It's The Places I've Cried in Public by Holly Byrne. And the reason I don't own it is because I didn't really like it. I really liked the writing and I liked the idea, and I thought like it was a good book, but there was one thing in particular that really made me angry. Which was towards the end. Here's a big spoiler warning. I'm gonna wave my hands again once the spoiler is over. But basically she gets raped by her boyfriend and does break up with him, gets out of the relationship and everything, and it's like about her dealing with it. But then a new girl starts something with that boyfriend, and she doesn't warn her, she doesn't tell her that he raped her, she doesn't tell her that this guy abused her in a relationship. And she specifically talks about wishing someone had warned her and had gotten her out of there, and then she sees this new girl getting into the same situation and doesn't do anything about it, and it made me really angry and sad, and I did not like that, so that's why I don't know the book. And the spoiler's over, there you go. But yeah, as I said, I thought it was a well-written book. I just personally did not enjoy reading it. What I did really enjoy reading was Hani and Ishu's Guide to Fake Dating by Adiba Yaigirda, I think it is. This was so much fun. It was so cute and wholesome and sweet and romantic, and yes, full of cliches, but in like the best way possible. This was so adorable. I really, really enjoyed this. It also did deal with like some family issues, which I really also enjoyed. I appreciated how honest they were about that. But mostly it was just really cute and fun and sweet, and I just had a great time. I know of 2 other books by the author that are already on my list. I'm definitely gonna check those out. This was so sweet. Then I read Was fange ich bloß mit guten weißen Menschen an by Britt Bennett. It's this really tiny little basically essay book that's about good white people, and like white people who are aware of their privilege and do want to speak about it and do want to be anti-racist, like how to deal with that, and that still like I would consider myself a good white person if I can go that far. I'm aware of the issues, I want to do something about it, I want to help, I want change, but I'm still a privileged white person, and sometimes it's not my place to speak, and like how to deal with that and how black people deal with those white people. And yeah, obviously an uncomfortable read, but that's the point, and I did really, I think I took some things away from it, even if just the awareness of the issue once again. So yeah, really appreciate this read. Then I read Frankie by Jochen Gutsch and Maxime Leo, and this cover is a fucking liar. This cover is so cute, and this book is so colorful, and this ripped my heart out and broke it into a million pieces. I was crying the entire time, like ugly crying, gonna need an entire box of tissues crying. This is a liar. This is not a cute book about cats. This is an emotionally really mature, wholesome, hopeful, heartbreaking, wrecking book about a man who wants to kill himself and the cat that saves his life, which is important and was a great read, but this cover lied to me. Then Then again, I read another little essay book. This is a new series that the Kiona Verlag is doing. I'm also gonna check out the other ones. I think it's a really cool idea. Basically, they're getting like public important figures to write public letters about a specific issue or topic, or just like something that that person is known for or knows a lot about, and it's basically like a public letter about that topic. And this specifically is Linus Giese, who's an important public trans man in Germany, and this is the letter Lieber Jonas oder der Wunsch nach Selbstbestimmung about the trans issue and being allowed and being able to be who you want to be, how difficult that can be, especially in the medical field, but also just, yeah, politically and in society and personally, like all the difficulties of discovering you're trans and transitioning, and do you want to transition, how far do you want to transition, all of that. It's a really beautiful letter. Again, it moved me so much, and I'm really interested in the other ones in this series. I think the second one is about intergenerational community, intergenerational communication, and like giving the world to the next generation, basically. And I think the third one is something to do with hope. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, check them out, they sound really cool. Next I listened to another audiobook, and this is actually one of my favorites of the year. This was so cool, I had so much fun with this. That was The Christie Affair by Nina de Gramont, read by Lucy Scott, and it was so cool. It kind of got me started into being interested in actual like crime novels. That's like the one genre I haven't touched because I'm kind of scared of it. And this isn't a crime novel, it isn't. But it got me interested in trying. And basically there like literally, actually, truly was this time in the life of Agatha Christie where she vanished for I think like 11 days or something and came back, and still to this day no one knows what happened. And this is a book about that time and like the author speculating what might have happened during that time. It's also interwoven with the story of Irish independence and a woman who gets caught up in personal struggles that are connected to that. And basically those two women, Agatha Christie and this Irish woman, like their connection and how that develops to finally get to those 11 days. And it was so interesting, it was so well done, like all the stories interwoven, all the people, like the real ones and the like fictional ones, the story, it seemed so factual and so true, and I really enjoyed it. The author also did a great job of reading it, and yeah, I just had a really amazing time with this book. I'm kind of sad I don't own it to have on my shelf, but the audiobook was definitely the right choice for me. And then I have another one that I did physically read, but I don't have it because I lent it to someone, and that was White Bird by Palacio. I've read another book by the author ages and ages ago and kind of like didn't really like look into it anymore, but then this new book came out and I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna give it a try. It is a story about the Second World War, which I usually avoid, but I still gave it a shot and I really appreciated it. I think it's an important story. I think it's one that's especially for children and younger people really well done to get into the topic of the Second World War, but also anti-Semitism in general. And basically it's a story of a girl who hides out with this family, and they hide her away, they protect her, and she is a little girl, and they have a child her own age, and they are just children, but they're living through all of this, they understand what's happening, and it's really heartbreaking, obviously, and I did get to the reason why I avoid this topic, but I do think it was good for me to read this, and I do also think it's one of those books that I would definitely recommend parents read with their children once the children like start to learn about this topic. And I think it did a really good job of showing the emotional depth behind this like so far off historic event that it's hard to picture sometimes. It really showed like the personal emotional struggles that went on there. So yeah, great read. I'm interested to see what the person I've lent it to says about it. Next, I've read another favorite of the year. I think everyone's heard about it by now. Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. This was so well done. Like, this is such a good book. And I was unsure about it because what I've read about the topic, it's about gamers and like game programmers. I have no idea about that. I like no connection whatsoever. But everyone kept telling me to just give it a try, and that's what I'm gonna tell you as well. Just give it a try. Just ignore the topic and just read it, because it's so fucking brilliant. It's so amazing. And genuinely, it didn't feel like I was reading a book. It felt like I have a little friend group of people I'm deeply connected to, and I'm just watching them live their lives. It just felt so real and honest and true and present, and I was just there for all of it. It does span over multiple years, so you see them growing and changing, and it didn't feel like reading a story. It felt like watching people's lives unfold in front of you. It's so amazing. Like, truly, just read it, please. Just do yourself a favor and read it. Next, I read another book that everyone kept telling me to just read, and that's Die Liebe an diesen Tagen by Ewald Ahrens. Ewald Ahrens is like a favorite author at the moment, and also a favorite of my mom's. And all my customers and colleagues and my mom kept telling me I need to read him. So I did. And I did really enjoy the book. I understand now why people like him so much, why he's like a bestseller with everything he's coming out with. I do get it. It's not for me, personally. Like, I had a really lovely time reading this book. There were several moments where I thought like, yes, okay, this is so well written and well constructed and well made. I get it. It just didn't really hit with me personally. So, that's fine. Next was another audiobook, and this one was Jeanette McCurdy's autobiography, I'm Glad My Mom Died, read by her. Oh god, this book. This is one of the ones that we have in the bookshop, and I just don't know whether I want to recommend them. Like, I want people to read it, but I don't want to be the one to tell people to read it. Because, like, it's truly heartbreaking. It's just so messed up and heartbreaking and sad, and I'm so glad that she had the chance to write this and put this out there and talk about it, and I'm so glad that she's out of that situation and that she's appearing to have a better life now. I wish her all the best, and I'm also like so appreciative that she shared this with the world and that I got to read it and listen to it, and her reading it like is also fucking messed up. Like, oh, I cried so much. So yeah, definitely recommend reading it, but forget that I was the one to tell you, because I don't want to inflict that kind of pain on anyone. Yeah. So the next book I read was Kaffee mit Milch by Ella Maria Nutti. I'm really glad I read this one, because I thought I wanted to gift this to my mom for her birthday, because like the cover is like really my mom and it's about a mother-daughter relationship, but I wasn't completely sure she'd like it, so I thought, you know what, I'm gonna read it first and then decide. And it's such a good decision because I would not have gifted her this book. It is really, really beautiful. It's a lovely mother-daughter story, but it's like a negative relationship. So I'm glad I didn't give this to my mom because it would appear as like a, I don't actually like you. So basically this is told over, I think, one weekend, and the mother is visiting the daughter. They're not really connected anymore. They have like a tough, difficult relationship. They can't really talk to each other. And it's over one weekend where the mother really needs to tell the daughter something, but because of how complicated the relationship is, she can't actually. And yeah, it's really emotional. It's really sad, but it's also like quite beautiful in how honest it is. It's a sad story, but it's beautiful. Then I read Die linke Hand der Dunkelheit by Ursula Le Guin, and I'm so glad I read this book. This was so cool and so stunning. I've heard so much about Ursula Le Guin as like a gigantic, important sci-fi author. And this isn't a new book, this was just newly released once again. And it definitely made me want to pick up other books by her. This is such an interesting sci-fi story. Basically you have someone coming to a different planet, trying to make peace with them and like to establish a relationship between planets. And basically the government think he's a spy or something and he has to flee on this planet, and there's only one other person who understands him and thinks he's doing well and helps him. And it's just those two, like from different planets, from completely different backgrounds and cultures, basically being in exile together. And it's so beautiful, like it's a really well done sci-fi story, and like the world building is really well done and the futuristic aspects are really well done, but it's also just so human and emotional, and it's so much about connection and trust, and it's just really beautifully written as well. And just, yeah, I definitely get why she is so important in the sci-fi community, and I definitely want to read more by this author. I think she is brilliant. Next I read this beautiful book, look at this, it's so pretty. This is Lark and Kasim Start a Revolution by Case and Calendar, and this was so cute again. It was also a bit stressful because there's like teenage drama going on, but it was also like really sweet and cute and fluffy and romantic. It was also, I think this is the first book with a triple relationship, and it's definitely the first book where, to me, whilst reading it, that was the only good conclusion. Like, sometimes you get like, I don't know, love triangles, and you know, like either none of them should be together or it should be definitely these two or something like that. But with this one, they established that there's like something between three people in different ways, and it could have been a love triangle. But whilst reading, you really feel that the only right outcome here is for all three of them to be in a relationship together. And I never read something like that, and I'm really glad I did. I'm gonna talk about another one later. But yeah, I had a really nice time with this book. It was so sweet and cute, and just, yeah, it opened me up to a new way of romance, and I thought it was really well done. I do also own other books by Case and Calendar. I haven't read them yet, but yeah, this is definitely making me excited to also read those other books. I think Case and Calendar books always have like a nice, fun, queer twist to them that is a little bit different than other things I've read before. So yeah, had a really nice time with this book. And I also had a great time with Dolly Parton. I've been on a bit of a Dolly Parton journey. I've always known she's amazing, and I've loved her music, and I thought she was an amazing person. Like, she's so cool. She is so fucking cool. But it's really escalated this past year. I've got a CD collection now and everything. And as I said earlier, I'm kind of getting started into my crime novel journey. So I read One Rose One by Dolly Parton and James Patterson. James Patterson is a really famous crime novel author, and he does this thing sometimes where he collaborates on his novels with famous people that are not connected to writing. I can't think of the other ones right now, but yeah, he's done this before, and this time he's collaborated with Dolly Parton. And basically this is a country crime. Like, there's this country singer, she's on the run and she wants to make music, and yeah, she has a dark past and all of that. It was so, like, it was cute and fun in that you can really tell Dolly Parton was involved with this. You can like hear her voice through the lines. It was so nice. It was also kind of scary. I would not recommend reading this on a train ride when you're alone. But I did really enjoy it, so I think that's a plus on my crime journey. Also, Dolly Parton did write an actual album for this, and like you get like some snippets of songs in the novel, and then you can listen to the real song, and that was really, really cool. It was such a nice experience. So yeah, really fun read. I really enjoyed this. Next we have another shorter non-fiction book. This is Dickens and Prince by Nick Hornby. This was so cute. I read about this coming out and I just immediately knew I was gonna love it, and I did. Basically, this is just Nick Hornby fanboying, but like academically. And it's so cute. I also, after I read it, I gifted the German version to my dad for him to read it, and he also had a great time with it. It's just so fun. It's also really interesting because neither Charles Dickens, nor Prince, the singer, are people I know much about. So there was a lot of new information for me here. It also did make me want to read the Charles Dickens novel I've had on my shelf for ages now, so maybe I'll do that this year. But yeah, basically it's just, I'm really glad Nick Hornby is a famous, successful author to the point that he can just publish whatever he wants, because this was so unnecessary in the best way possible. In the way that, like, I'm so glad Nick Hornby got to sit down and fanboy over these two people and find connections where maybe they aren't really connected. Yeah, I really recommend this. It was so cool to read, really, really interesting, really funny, and yeah, now I know more about 3 people, I guess. And then I read TJ Klune. I don't know if you know this, TJ Klune is one of my favorite authors. Whatever he does is amazing. He's just fantastic. I love him so much. This was no different. In the Lives of Puppets, this was kind of more science fiction than fantasy, but yeah, basically he just writes so wonderfully. It's always so heartwarming. It always feels like positive and warm, and the connections between the characters, I can't even describe how in love I am with the relationships in his books, like in all directions, like the friends, the families, the romances, just the connections are so well done, and it feels so warm, it feels so comforting. And this was a bit more science fiction, so there was a bit more action to it. And actually, let me talk about this one now, because he also published another one, which is Aus Stern und Staub, with this beautiful sky on the edges. I also read this year, and this is definitely more science fiction. Like, this is true science fiction, action, car chases, all of that. So like the vibe was a little bit different, but both of these are still so Klune. They are so warm and comforting, and just his books are a safe place to me. His books are, I know this is gonna be good for my soul. And yeah, I really, these are definitely favorites of the year. I didn't expect them not to be. Yeah, this one, as I said, was more science fiction and like more action. It was also a little bit more witty in the writing style, which I found really fun. Like, that was so cool to read. And this one was a little bit inspired by Pinocchio. I also saw some like aspects of Frankenstein. There were like some influences there, also just amazing. But yeah, basically everything he writes becomes an instant favorite. I love this man so much. I'm so glad he is a writer. I'm so happy I get to read his books. And yeah, then we're on the other three people relationship book that I wanted to talk about. This is Und wir tanzen über den Flüssen by Sophie Beron. And yeah, again, it's a relationship between three people. I also really enjoyed this one. It's really beautifully written. She is also a poet, so like her writing style is really poetic and beautiful. I did also really enjoy the relationship, and I've learned later that she actually also had a throuple relationship and like put some of her own experiences into it. I felt like this was more directed towards people who don't know this yet and who are new to it, because it did also deal a lot with like criticisms and negative reactions of other people around you, and how you deal with that, and how you deal with like explaining it to new people and their reactions and all of that. So it felt more complex in that sense. It was not as cute as Chasm and Lark. Not even close. I really enjoyed it. It also was a lot more spicy. Like, Chasm and Lark is like, I don't know, high school teenagers. This is like young adults, fresh adults, like in their early 20s. This was really spicy. But yeah, it also was a bit sadder, and like, I get that there are negative aspects that you'll have to deal with, and I'm glad she talked about it, and it helped me as a newbie to the idea of a throuple, like, understand it better. So it was more educational, but it wasn't as cute. Next, I read Pompeii by Eugen Ruge. This was definitely like out of left field, but it also became a favorite of the year. So yeah, I don't really remember why I picked this one up, because it definitely wasn't for me. This is a fictional retelling, I don't know, fictional encounter of the eruption of Mount Vesuvius, and I don't even really know how to explain it, but like, yes, it's a historical novel, and I'm like not really interested in this point of history, and I'm still not. I didn't really care about that aspect of it, like, you know, it's gonna happen and that's interesting and all of that, but it was so funny. It was like genuinely laughing out loud, in like a really dry humor, because he does make fun of these people dying, which like, oh, okay, but like, he also makes fun of just like the political and societal situation and of the people, and yeah, it was like really funny in like kind of a dark way. I don't know, I really enjoyed it, and I did not expect to, and like, yeah, I guess this was a favorite. And I also read another favorite right afterwards. This is Ever After by Lukens. I did actually listen to the audiobook of this. I also started listening to the audiobook of Lukens' other novels, and I did also enjoy them, but I did not finish them because they couldn't touch this. This was like not only a new favorite book, but a new favorite author. I'm definitely gonna read Lukens' other books as soon as I've gotten over how perfect this is. If you're into D&D, you need to read this. Just basically you have like the D&D group and they've done their quest and it's like it's successful and everything's done. And so now what is this? And it's also queer and it's so cute and the friendships are so sweet and it's just it's really, really like lovely and cute and funny and clever, and the action is well done and the fantasy is well done, and I just really, really enjoyed this. I really love this book. Like I cannot express how much of an amazing time I had with this book. It was so good. It was so good. Next I read Infamous by Lex Croucher. I know Lex Croucher here from YouTube, and I've known that there are books, but I wasn't like really that interested in it. But then I thought, you know what? Actually, this sounds really fun. It's like regional romance, but make it queer. And it was really, really fun. It was cute. The relationship was so adorable. It's clever. It's like, yeah, it's a really well done Regency romance, and I had a great time with it. I really enjoyed it. I had so much fun with it. I'm definitely gonna read more of Lex Croucher's books. There were some aspects I didn't enjoy, like just little tiny things that for me personally didn't fit. And that's totally fine. Like, as I said, I still had a great time with it. I still really enjoyed it. I'm still gonna read more of Lex Croucher's books. Just, it wasn't completely my thing. But again, I'm gonna read more and I'm gonna see if the other books are maybe like more my style. But yeah, it was really fun and adorable and a sweet little romance. Then I have another book that I don't have with me, which is Man kann auch ohne Kinder keine Karriere machen by Ella Karina Werner. She is a German comedian, and this is basically a short story collection of what it is to be a woman, I guess. It's kind of like these little like encounters and moments of sexism, but also like just, yeah, womanhood. I don't know, it's not always negative. There are some like really funny and relatable moments that are just about like, I don't know, got your period on a bad day or something like that. So it was really funny. It wasn't really my kind of humor all the time, but I did laugh a lot. So, you know, it was cool. I think it's just a fun concept as well. And yeah, as always with like short story collections or like, you know, little multiples in one book, there's always a hit or miss, and some were really amazing. I had a lot of fun with some, and some not so much. But yeah, overall it was really funny and relatable. And then we get to another favorite of the year. This is Jahr der Wunder by Louise Erdrich. Oh, this book. This book kind of wrecked me a little bit. Out of all the books, out of all the favorites, this is definitely the one I still think about the most. Because it's one of those favorites that like, it's not a favorite because I loved it so much, which I did. I loved it so much. But it's a favorite because of the impact it had on me and the thoughts it provoked and the emotion it provoked. I had to put down this book for a couple of weeks because it was getting too much for me. And I then still picked it up because I needed to continue reading. But just, yeah, it was almost too much. I almost couldn't read this book because of how much it is. So this is the story of an indigenous woman who is in jail at the beginning, or like before the beginning of the book, and now she's back and she like has her normal life, but she still kind of has to deal with everything that went on. So it's an emotional, personal journey, but it's also set during the time of the first COVID outbreaks and also the Black Lives Matter movement. And then there's also like a somewhat like spiritual, almost supernatural aspect to it. Like there's so much to this book, and all of it is done perfectly well. Like just, I cannot just, I don't get how you can put so many completely different storylines and aspects and topics into one book, and none of them are too much or wrong or don't fit. They all work so well together to create this beautiful, emotionally wrecking masterpiece. Like, I would call this a masterpiece. This was so good. Then I read I'm a Fan by Sheena Patel. That was not a favorite of the year. I did not enjoy that book. I thought it was, like, I finished reading it and I thought it was a really interesting book. I'm glad I read it. I think the concept is super interesting. It's like kind of dealing with obsessive relationships, both in the romantic sense and also the parasocial ones online. And like, it was really honest about that. It also was like kind of gross at points about it. And like, I get it, that's the point, but I didn't need to read that. It just wasn't a favorite for me. I'm glad for the experience of reading it, but I didn't need to read it. Let's put it that way. Then I read The 99 Boyfriends of Mika Summers by Adam Sass. This was really, really cute. It was like adorable and sweet and romantic. There's like some little illustrations. It was like really fluffy, sweet, just like a really nice read. It was also a little bit frustrating at times because the cliches kept clichéing. But like not in a negative sense. Like, this is one of those, sometimes you just need an easy fluffy read, and this is definitely it. Like, I really enjoyed it. I had a great time with it, and if you're looking for something like easygoing, cute, romantic, sweet, like, definitely check this out. It was really, really sweet. I really enjoyed it. And then I listened to the audiobook of We Should All Be Feminists by Erdrich, and again, I had a great time with it in the sense that it was an uncomfortable read, but that's the point. It was like, it's a really short one. I think it's like only like 40 minutes or something. And I am a feminist, so most of the points I already like was aware of, or was like already participating in, if you can put it that way. But there's also some like personal experiences in it that were really interesting to learn about, and that like kind of put things in a new perspective, or just sometimes also reiterated some aspects of feminism for me. So again, it was like a really educational read, and yeah, I think the personal aspects of it also really helped with the overall message of it. Then we have another favorite of the year, Das Glück der Geschichtensammlerin by Sally Page. I started reading this expecting like a fluffy, easy read, and it is in some aspects, but it's also like way deeper than I expected, and I really, really appreciated it. This is the story of a house cleaner, and she kind of like knows the life stories of all the people she cleans for, and then it's kind of about like the idea, or like the aspect of her finally living her own life story and going out there and making her own decisions, and not always listening to other people's lives, but living her own life. And there is a really traumatizing aspect of it, of like why she hasn't done that yet, and she overcomes it and she lives her life. And I was so happy for her. Like the entire time I just wanted the best for her. I was so invested in her being happy, and it was so satisfying when she finally was. Like I was so in this. It was definitely a favorite. I recommend it to all my customers. It was such a good read. Next, I read Ein Garten voller Bücher by Alba Donati. This is really cute. It's basically like an autobiography about a bookshop. So this author has like a little bookshop in Italy that's like really tiny in her backyard, and she kind of opened it like for only her community, but then it became famous, and it's just like her in diary form talking about what it is like to have this tiny bookshop in this tiny Italian community. And it's really like, it's cute and it's fun, and it's like, it definitely made me want to open my own bookshop even more. I already want to do that, but after this I want it even more. And it's also like the people she talks about in this community and all of that. It's really homely and cozy, and I really enjoyed it. Then we get to the other Luisa Neubauer book I talked about. I talked about the first one that I talked about listening to the other one on audio. This one I read in paper, and this is Gegen die Ohnmacht by Luisa Neubauer and Dagmar Remsma, and that is her grandma. Basically, this is a conversation between Luisa Neubauer, the climate activist, and her grandma, who was also an activist in her time and kind of still is. And yeah, it's about these two people who obviously have a very personal connection, but then also talking about like bigger things out of their connection. And it's really interesting, like their different experiences in different generations, in different times, in different situations. They just exchange experiences and also like kind of challenge each other's views a little bit, which also was really interesting and very educational. And yeah, I think it was like such a cool concept to do this, and I'm really glad I got to read it. Next, I read Novelist as a Vocation by Haruko Murakami. This is like essays basically from Haruko Murakami, who is a famous novelist obviously, and it's about like his experiences being an author, being in the publishing industry, being like a writer. And there's basically a question at the beginning, and then he kind of answers it in a longer essay. Some of those answers were really interesting, some of them not so much. I think it's also because I've already read some of his non-fiction. I've read What I Talk About When I Talk About Running and Tea, and like I already knew some of those aspects of answers, so like I kind of skipped through it a little bit, but other parts are really interesting. I think he's such a fascinating man, and the way he thinks about writing, the way he is a writer is kind of not typical, I guess. So, you know, it's a fascinating read if you want to be a writer yourself, and yeah, I did appreciate it. And then I also listened to the audiobook of Die Tage in der Buchhandlung Morisaki, which was a bit like weird because it is one book, but it felt very much like two separate stories. Like there's this cut in the middle, and in the first half it's her living with her uncle at his bookshop and discovering books for herself and like finding her way back into life after some shit happened. And that's the first half. And then the second half is very much about the aunt coming back. And like it is connected in that way, but it's just a completely different story. And they are connected, and I did enjoy listening to them, but it also felt like kind of off. I don't know. It was a bit weird. Then I read Imogen, obviously, by Becky Albertalli. I just love Becky Albertalli. Like, you know what you're getting. It's cute, it's fluffy, it does also challenge some like stereotypes of queer community. In this one we're talking about a bi girl, and I did really enjoy like those challenging conversations they had. I think that's really important. I also think it's really important that such a public, famous queer author is doing that in her like more just accessible, fluffy books. I think that's a really cool combination. I just love all her books. I really love this one. I read it with a friend, which was lovely and nice, and we talked about it a little bit. And yeah, it was just cute. And Becky Albertalli is a great author. And then I also read another queer book as an audiobook, which is Astrid Parker Doesn't Fail by Ashley Herring Blake. Again, I found a new favorite author. I'm reading all her books now as audiobooks because I think like her specific sassiness really comes through in the audiobooks. They are read by Kristen Di Mercurio, who's doing a great job of it. Like the sassiness, the flirtiness, the humor really comes through in audio form. I'm really enjoying it. And yeah, I think the aspect that I enjoy so much about it is that it's older women who are queer in relationships, like not older, they're like in their mid-30s, I think, but it's not teenage relationships. I feel like a lot of queer stories are focused on teenagers or young adults, which is completely fine. That's like so sweet and cute and important. But it kind of feels like once you're 30, you're not allowed to be queer anymore. You're not allowed to find a new relationship anymore. You're not allowed to flirt. And yeah, these ones are in their mid-30s and they're flirting, they're sexy, they're cute, they're romantic, and I just really, really enjoy them. I have such a great time with these books, and I'm really excited to listen to the other 2 books in this series. Next, I read Family Law by Elizabeth Acevedo. This is one of my favorite authors of all time. You might know her from The Poet X. She is a poet, she's a poetry slammer, she's a novel author, and her books are so special. And she hasn't published anything in a couple of years, and then I heard that there's gonna be a next one, and I was so excited. I read it the second it came out. I fell deeply in love with it and deeply in love with her as an author again. I can't really express what it is. There's a magic to her writing. And I genuinely can't explain why it hits me so hard, but something about her books just hits me. And yeah, I had such an amazing time with this book. Like almost every other page is dog-eared because there was something amazing on it. And yeah, I'm excited to see where she goes next. This one was kind of more adult, more mature than her other novels, and I'm so glad I got a new book by her, and I hope there will be some more soon. I love her so much. Then I continued my crime novel journey with Agatha Christie. I actually read Agatha Christie, The Murder at the Vicarage. This was also very, very fun. I did a hiking trip with my mom for a couple of days, and before that I bought the English version and she bought the German version, and we, like on our little vacation, read them together and talked about it. And I had a great time doing that, reading that, and like discussing it with her. we both agree that our idea of the ending is better than the actual ending though. We kind of didn't like the ending. We thought it was kind of, you know, when authors like put a twist at the ending and you can tell it's only there to be a twist and not because it actually makes sense. This didn't really make sense. It was kind of like I'm doing something different just because. Just so that the reader doesn't already know what's gonna happen. And I didn't like that. I didn't enjoy that. But yeah, I'm really happy that I read Agatha Christie now. It feels like such an important step on my crime journey. I'm gonna read Sherlock Holmes next, which is also gonna be cool. I'm also buddy reading that with my friend Lizzie, so again, gonna have a great time discussing it. And yeah, I feel like I'm on the right track here. Next, we have a very, very special one. This is Inside of Souls, the first one. And my friend wrote this, I'm so proud. This is by Michelle Miller and Sylvia Anderman. And Sylvia Anderman is a lovely friend of mine. We went to university together and I actually sat next to her while the two of them were writing some of this book and like coming up with the plot and all of that. And now it's an actual, real, physical book. That's so cool. So yeah, obviously this has like a special place in my reading year. Obviously this was a favorite just because of the context of it. But it's also a really, really good book. This is very much romantasy, which, to be honest, isn't really my thing. But obviously I still read it. And I really enjoyed it. It actually kind of got me like resparkled my interest in fantasy kind of. You can tell on my 12 books I'm most excited for in 2024 list, which is here, I think, if you go to the video. There's a lot of fantasy on that and also actually some romantasy. Like this kind of rekindled my love for fantasy. And it's based in Egyptian mythology and obviously has like a spicy romance going on. And I just really enjoyed it. I had such a great time. I also obviously had like an extra great time talking to Sylvia about it and like asking her like background info and all of that stuff. And I'm so proud of her. The second book is coming out this year. I'm so excited and I just, yeah, obviously this holds a special place in my reading and on my bookshelf, and I'm really, really excited for her. Then I read Dear Dolly by Dolly Alderton. Dolly Alderton basically has like this, I don't know the word for it. She answers letters to help people. I don't know what you call that. Auntie irgendwas? I don't know, keine Ahnung. But yeah, Dolly Alderton answers letters to help people, and these are some of those helpful letters on different topics. And I was kind of like expecting it to be little surface level or little cliche or something like that, but I actually like it really fascinated me. There were so many amazing like insights and tips and just also like emotionally helpful aspects of it. There was some like questions that had nothing to do with anything I've ever gone through, but the answers still felt helpful to me. Like, definitely recommend reading through all of her answers, even if you think it has nothing to do with you, because there's always like one aspect or one little thing or one little phrase that still will help you. And I think this is one of those books that I wish I had when I first moved out and started my own life. Like, there's so many helpful things specifically about that and about like losing contact with friends, having your own apartment, starting a first relationship, starting a first job, all of that. I think this is really, really helpful for that step in your life. Then we have another short little non-fiction book, but oh my god, this is such a favorite. This kind of changed me. I've been getting more into politics this past year, and like reading more about it, and like the connection of society and politics and like personal politics. And this is Scheiß of Self-Love, Gib mir Klassenkampf by Selflove-Kindler. It's a really short book, but damn, it packs a punch. Basically, yeah, he kind of talks about how we have this idea as a society that if you're feeling bad and if you're like depressed or if you're tired or if you're like overwhelmed, that's because of you personally. And there's this like, I can't quite remember the phrase, but basically he says like, you can't meditate away societal injustice. Like, that's just, it's crazy that we think we as individuals are responsible for our own wealth and our own happiness in such a huge way, when there's so much other stuff from the outside that obviously impacts us. Like, if you're poor, you can't meditate that away or make yourself not poor because of the way our society is structured and politics and all of that. Like, there's so much going on and it is fucked up. It is wrong. There's so much that needs to change on a big, huge level that you can't do as one person. So yeah, definitely recommend this one. This is so impactful and like, oh yeah, it definitely did something to me. I think this is great if they are willing to, for the people who don't think we need change. If they're willing to read this, like actually read this, I think this will explain to some people why we do need change. And I think that's important. Next, I read Honigkuchen by Haruko Murakami, which is a short story of his, which was beautifully illustrated, and I'm gonna put the name here because I forgot. But yeah, it's just, it has gorgeous illustrations, like full page, it's really beautiful. It is a very, very short book, like it definitely is like a short story. And to be honest, the story was good, it was well written, but I connected more with the illustrations than with the writing. But I think this is like a really nice like gift for someone. It's really pretty, it's beautiful, the story is sweet, and you know, it was a nice book. And then I read, here we go, Farbe der Rache by Cornelia Funke. Cornelia Funke is a huge German author. Like, I think she's the German author with the most international fans and acclaim at the moment. And this is a new book in the Ink Heart series, which is 15 years old. I read it as a kid, as a child, and it's been ages, and now there's like this follow-up to it. And I was really, really excited about it, but I also was like, okay, why? It's been so long. I also thought I needed to reread the other books first, which I did not do. But yeah, the second I started reading it, I was back in the magic. Like, Cornelia Funke just knows how to write fantasy. There's no denying it. Like, she has the magic touch to make fairies and witches and just fantastical things come alive. It's just so real, it's so lovely, it's so fantastic. And this one focuses on Staubfinger, who is like a side character from the other books, and he's the main character here, which is a great choice because he is definitely the best character, and he was again. I really love him, and I love this book, and I do think I do want to reread the entire series and then also reread this one, because I did understand it all. Like, there was nothing I was missing, but it felt like maybe like if I had reread the other books, if they were fresher in my mind, maybe I would have gotten more out of it. But yeah, I really loved it. I'm so glad to be back in this world. It makes me want to revisit the other books again. And it's just, yeah, she's just really, really good at what she does. Next I read Middle England by Jonathan Coe. I got this like borrowed it from a friend, so I don't have it, but it was such a great read. Like, it's definitely an important read right now. It deals with Brexit, it deals with political shifts, it deals like as a family story with different points of view on those political shifts. It was so interesting, so complex, and I really enjoyed it. I had such a great time reading it. It was really complex, and there were some points where I thought like you could have, like, this one didn't need to be told, or you could have shortened this one. Like, there were some aspects that didn't feel as important as other ones, but definitely like the complexity of it all was what made it amazing. Then I read another non-fiction book about societal changes. I read this one as an audiobook. It's by Sarah Weber, and it's called Die Welt geht unter und ich muss trotzdem arbeiten. Like, inspired by the corona pandemic, she talked about how it made her realize how fucked up our work system is, and that actually she doesn't want to work all the time and feel tired and make very little money and not have time to live and feel pressured to always perform at her best. Like, maybe that's not the greatest system. So it's very much focused on work and how we work and how our lives are designed around work, and how that isn't the greatest and we need to change that. It's very personal, but also like applies to basically everyone. Next I read Britney Spears' autobiography, The Woman in Me. And yeah, this was like fantastic. This was so insightful, so feminist, so honest. It was like, I expected there to be a lot in this, but I didn't expect there to be this much in it. I actually, this is kind of dumb, but I took a pink sparkly highlighter and highlighted some favorite passages, and there are a lot. Like, she is so intelligent in the way she reflects on everything that happened to her, and it's so frustrating. Like, I was really mad and angry and frustrated on her behalf reading about everything that happened and how little control, or like no control, she had over her own life, which is just, that's so wrong. That shouldn't be allowed to happen. And there are points where I wasn't sure if she was like kind of trying to manipulate the way I see the situation as a reader, but even that was like an intelligent, interesting aspect of reading it, like trying to see why she is telling the story the way she is telling it, and like why she decides to talk about something in a specific way. But mostly it was just like so interesting and infuriating to read, and I definitely recommend it. Next I listened to Taste by Stanley Tucci, and it's definitely also a favorite. This was so much fun. I had so much fun with it. It's basically an autobiography of Stanley Tucci's, but based on food, so there's actually like recipes in it, and he reads the audiobook himself, and the way he delivers, it's so cool. Like, it's a production, and there's so much energy in it. The way he talks about it is like, oh, yeah, I had a great time. And basically it's like his life alongside food. So him growing up in an Italian family, like the food his mom made and that kind of stuff, and then like when he moved out, the recipes he learned to cook and that kind of stuff. And then I actually didn't know this, but he also had tongue cancer, so the journey of that, and thankfully he's completely fine now, but then there's like this list of food that he missed eating and tasting, and it's just, there's so much passion in the way he talks about it. It definitely would not have worked for me reading this book myself on paper, because like just it lives through him, it lives through his voice and his passion and the way he delivers it, and it was so much fun. It also made me really hungry. I listened to this on the train ride over to my auntie, and I got there, and like the second I had said hello to her, the next thing was, we need to go to an Italian restaurant right now. Like the way he talked about all the food, I just needed a big bowl of pasta right away. But yeah, favorite of the year, it was so much fun. On the train ride back, I listened to the audiobook of Catching Christmas by Terry Blackstock. This was like just a cute, fluffy, cozy Christmas story. Actually, it wasn't, because the grandma dies. Like, that was unexpected and really sad in this like Christmas romance, but apart from that, it just was like your cheesy, stereotypical Christmas romance. It was a nice time, it was fun, it was cute for the ride over. And then I read Froststerne by Anna Fleck. This is the first one, and this was like my Christmas read, like my December read. Look at how gorgeous this book is, it's so pretty. And yeah, it was like the perfect December read. It was like Christmassy and snowy and frosty, and it's based on the Snow Queen story. So like basically I think the great-great-grandma is the one who defeated the Ice Queen, and now she's back, and yeah, they kind of have to go through that again. So it's kind of a fairy tale retelling, and it's so pretty, and it's also like really well done. I kind of, if I'm being honest, I wasn't expecting to love it that much, but you know, positive surprise. I had such a great time with it. I can't wait for the next one. I have to wait till the next December. It's gonna be another like icy December read. And I am excited for that, but I'm kind of pissed that I have to wait another year. But yeah, it's like, it's really well done in all the different aspects. It's really funny. It's really like action, suspenseful, thrilling in like everything she has to go through. It's romantic. The friendships are like beautiful, like such wonderful friendships. The fantasy world is really well established. You understand everything. There's like detail and logic in it, and like the magical aspects of it. It's like, yeah, it's really clever. It's really fun. It's really, yeah, it just kind of sweeps you up and you're in it. And I just, yeah, again, I didn't expect to love it this much, and I'm really excited for the next part. Also, it's stunningly beautiful. Can I just say that again? Like how pretty this book is. The next book I read is Der Buchladen am Ende der Welt by Ruth Shaw. This is kind of about a bookshop. Like there's chapters in between that are her experiences with like customers, anecdotes in her bookshop and all that kind of stuff. But more so it's her autobiography. And Ruth Shaw is a fascinating woman. Like what she did with her life, every chapter there was something completely taking me off guard. Like I never knew what to expect. I had no idea what she was gonna do next. And this is her actual life. Like she actually sailed the Pacific on a tiny boat by herself with a dog. She actually got caught playing illegal poker in a harbor somewhere. She actually was raped and lost her child and went through a whole bunch of trauma and sadness and grief. She actually found someone she loved with whom she has a wonderful life in New Zealand and has this adorable tiny little bookshop, and like she actually lived this life, and it's so fascinating, and there's so much to her life, and it is sad, and it's like heartbreaking, and you think, how did she go on? And then she does, and yeah, there's always hopefulness in her life. And then there are like those little anecdotes in between, of like seeing how happy she is now, and that was like, yeah, it was like, it was a thrilling but also like really difficult read at times. But yeah, I really, I'm blown away by this woman. Then I read the only poetry I've read all year, which was Bargain Bin Rom-Com by Lena Norms. I definitely need to read more poetry this year. I've kind of like, I don't know, I miss it. I love poetry, but I kind of didn't think to do that. But yeah, I'm really glad I read this one. Her poetry is like so witty and funny, and I really enjoyed it. It also was quite a journey. This book took like basically all year to get to me, because I had to order it from England to Germany, and it kind of got lost. Huge thank you to the lovely people at Waterstones who like helped me figure out what this was and shipped it again. And yeah, it was a journey to get to me, so I had to read it, and I'm really glad I have it now, and I read it, and I need to read more poetry. Then I listened to the first audiobook in the Every Heart, a Doorway, Wayward Children series, and I'm just so in love. I've heard about the Wayward Children before, and I always thought, you know what, I need to read those. They are like basically made for me. It's like fairy tale-esque short story novellas, and I finally did it. I finally listened to the first one. The audiobooks are so well done, and like lovely to listen to. And yeah, I'm in it now. I am really enjoying it. They are so cool. They are so cool. And yeah, definitely they're made for me. Like specifically, this is everything I love. I'm so excited. I'm gonna listen to the rest of the series as the audiobooks during the rest of this year. It's like my kind of project this year to listen to all of them, and I'm so looking forward to it. It's gonna be amazing. I'm so excited to finally get to these very cool books. Next, I read Ein Hof und 11 Geschwister by Ewald Frie. This is an autobiography by the son of a farmer, and it's kind of about the transition that farming life and like agriculture has taken over the last like 50 or 100 years. And he's telling the story of his forefathers, of the person who built the farm, of his dad, and of his older brother who's taking over, and kind of like how everything shifted, how technologically everything has changed. So it's kind of about that, and there's also some like studies and numbers in it. And I had a lot of fun with this, not only because it's an interesting topic, but because I grew up around farms. I'm a village child. I drank milk from actual cows and all that shit. And I read this for my mom. It was her Christmas present, and I did like little anecdotes of like our lives together, and like little questions about how she sees things. And I just had like, it was like extra interesting to read it that way. And now she's reading it and like telling me all about it, and it's like really cool, but it's also just a really interesting book in itself. And then the last book on my list of books I've read in 2023, number 80, is Daniel Deronda by George Eliot. And by the bookmark in this, you can tell that that's a fucking lie. I did not finish this book, but I put it on the list anyway. Yeah, George Eliot is my favorite classical author, apart from Mary Shelley, Frankenstein. I am reading all of her books. I've started reading her at university. I had a seminar on her, and she is such an interesting person, like such an interesting author and woman of her time, and just the way she thinks and tells her story and tells other women's stories and talks about society in her books is just so interesting. And this was the one that I read last year mostly. This is 600 pages and I'm at like 400, so I still have a way to go, but I read most of it last year, so I'm gonna count it. I am just fascinated by it. It's so cool. She's so like funny in a clever, sarcastic way, the way she like pokes fun at society and criticizes it, but like kind of undercover. It's really, really cool. The story is basically boy meets girl every time, but it's never the way you think, and there's so many different aspects to it. And this one is also kind of dealing with anti-Semitism, which is really interesting in the way like she portrays it back in 1860, I think, 1870, and some connections to obviously current situations. So yeah, fascinating read. She is such an amazing author. Her voice is so brilliant and her writing is beautiful, and she is so clever and intelligent, and I am really, really enjoying it. It's just taking forever. But yeah, I'm gonna count it as read in 2023. So, you know, those were the 80 not quite books I've read last year. As I said, I'm gonna do a separate video for manga and comics, so look out for that one whenever that will come. Feel free to subscribe, feel free to let me know what you've read, your favorites. If you've read any of these, let me know your opinions down in the comments below. I'm so happy to be back and to talk about my reading year this year. I've had such a great time last year, and I'm looking forward to 2024 and to sharing it with all of you again. But yeah, thanks for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you have some amazing books to read, and I hope you always have a reason to smile. And I shall see you soon. Bye!